Namaskar and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology, debunking mythology. Sattology means science or truth, the study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which means science or study of fake, lie, or imagination. Thank you for buying all my books. Check out on Sattology on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. And also you will be also seeing me doing many book reading across San Diego and LA regions in this 23 years. Almost 25 appointments have been set up. Do join our 12x Debunking Mythology course and 12x Yoga certification course to learn the science of Sanatan Dharma culture or Hindu culture and the yoga culture in total. I have a very special guest. We are going to talk about a very important topic. He's a very famous author of more than 11 books and also well-known TV personality. So let us welcome Dr. Ratan Sharda. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Always a pleasure to have you, Ratanji. Abhi,
Same here.
now the India is actually doing so many proactive steps, which were a dream for even Indians to see also. But it has completely shocked the West. Like their movement on Cyprus and Greece, arming them with defense pacts, military pacts, not even civilian pacts, it's military pacts. Arm them with drones and guns and missiles, like Pinakas and all the guns are ATAGs, I think ATAGs, and some other air defense Akash units have been sent over there. So how do you see this changing India in this part of the world?
See, India had been very diffident and very timid about its own personality, its own nationhood, and also its relation with the world. The beginning of the time in the independent India, when we went for non-aligned movement, basically it was a defensive approach, where India said we can't be in the left bloc, in the eastern bloc or the western bloc, so let us stay non-aligned. And there were large number of companies, large number of countries from Egypt to Czechoslovakia who joined the game. In fact, India also wanted China to join the particular alliance. Luckily for them, China didn't join. So from there, then, always saying, what will China say? What will US say? What will Middle East say? From that, log kya kahenge? What will people say? To asserting what India is. That is a journey that India has gone through after 2014. Even India, if you look at the arms itself, India was the biggest importer of arms in every category, right from the uniforms of the armed forces to smallest vehicles to smallest guns to largest anti-aircraft guns and aeroplane, etc. From there, right from making submarines to ships, warships to trainer aircrafts, and now 76% of the Indian armament is being produced by India. And from being the largest importer, slowly it is getting into the environment of exporters. From a very small amount of insignificant amount, now it has gone to some thousands of crores of rupees of exports to of arms. Now this bold approach, where we can also export arms, as we have got some of the best missiles, we have the best satellite systems, and now we also have various kind of armaments, which are in fact even bulletproof jackets have been improvised, made much better. So all these have been now very clearly known to the people, and nations are lining up because our costs are low, we are more reliable, and we don't force any opinion on the people or our own military might or our own alignments with the others. We are just acting independently and asking the countries to remain independent. So this free movement or this very objective approach to business has resulted in India being taken at a much higher stage as it was earlier. That is a major reason you see all over the alignment, as we discussed last time. Even independent starts on Ukraine, which has been US has been very bitter about it. But it was basically a war between US. It was a European war. It was not a world war. The TVs just wrongfully called it a world at war. World is not at war. It is Ukraine, Russia, and American axis. Totally unrequired, not required at all kind of war, which could have been easily avoided. But unfortunately, thousands have died, millions are suffering, world is suffering for this unrequired and totally unexpected war. And India has taken an independent stance. It has taken advantage of that, and that is what any nation should do. So this strong India with a very strong scientific background and very strong, slowly rising armament industry is definitely a positive for India and also for the world.
One of the things which people may not realize that the most of the Indian weapons are world class. Like, for
Yeah.
example, Tejas aircraft has been marked in NATO terms as the dagger. Like they are marking. See, when the Western agencies mark the term, and dagger is, by the way, the unit in Sulur that's called the that particular squadron is called daggers. And
Mhm.
marking it Indian names in the names means recognizing that that can be a potential adversary. Pinaka has been marked in NATO terms, and I don't know the name of Pinaka. Brahmos has been
Even
marked.
BrahMos, yes. BrahMos is
Has
one of the
been marked.
biggest successes of Indian rocket system, Indian missile system.
It's
That is
one of
also
the
being
biggest success.
exported.
The biggest success has been the
Yeah,
Tejas, because the
yeah,
Tejas, that small plane carries the same amount of tonnage of armaments as Sukhoi. It carries 8 tons, and 8 tons is Sukhoi. It's like the same,
right,
and
right.
also it carries a BrahMos missile too now. So it has been a biggest thing, and also for the first time, India has been treated with a lot of respect because of all these
True,
inventions which India has done, space research also.
true.
One
See,
thing
it was
which
always there. Aditya ji, we must realize it always there, but there are huge arms lobby which didn't want India to be independent or what we call self-reliant, and they deliberately chose not to purchase the defense equipment from Indians itself. There is company I know which used to export high quality engineering goods to Western countries and even for defense purposes. It was not allowed to supply to Indian army or to Indian defense establishment. Only now it has opened the gates. So all the big companies, engineering companies are coming to the game. It is not some small players doing it. It's a large, very large, big group. Even at the level of routers, I know of cases where Indian institutions like IIT were not allowed to enter the competition vis-a-vis multinational companies, whether they're Korean or Chinese or American. So this change came only after this new government came in, and now the Indian companies are in the race. And of course, they were already the brains behind biggest technology in the world. Now they're giving the same technology, same brains to India itself. That's the way it should have been.
No, one of the things which also points out to the corruption of all the governments before, they were all sold out to the Western agencies, not even the governments, agencies, and the West generally West
The
means
reason was easy to understand, Aditya, because see, passing on commission from importers right into Swiss accounts or Cayman Island is much more easier than getting these kind of corruption deals inside India. It was always easier to work outside where the commissions could pass. We know many cases where it has happened. So this is the reason why the Indian genius was left behind or not used or not utilized, which is being done now. So corruption is also gone, and dealings even with foreign countries are generally now from nation to nation. There is huge change in defense establishment, in government thinking, in its image in the world, and its very clear-cut objective stance on the world affairs.
India made it very clear. We are not aligned. We are not an ally of anyone, but we are aligned to ourselves. That's a very good
Yeah, so this
definition.
is true non-alignment. So
This is
what
true now.
non-alignment, as I said, we had that was defensive mechanism. That's a very assertive, very assertive. You can listen to the foreign minister of India is very assertive about India's independence stance. So this is true a non-alignment as compared to the earlier apologetic one.
See, the India has always been made like a look very down upon by the Western education institutions, especially American and British. These two education institutes over there, they carried out a systemic program to train
Yeah,
their people that how the Hindu culture is inferior, Hindus are inferior, and somehow the Christian ideology played a very big role because to prove themselves to be higher, they have to show Hindus as lower. And Hindus have been sold as a snake charmers and playing with the monkeys and a very poor nation. This is what they sold. Now we see the same situations. It's like karma. My book is there. Karma is a bitch. It's same situation. is being shown in the Western countries now. The more homeless population, there's more poverty on the streets, and the borders are not protected. Whatever they played on other countries is playing at home. Now, I don't call it a resurgence of India. I say a karma hitting back because it's just a. Uh, but in the case of academic world, this is not happening because Indian universities, all the universities, they seek validation from the West. They teach courses what are being taught in America in India. So when you ask an American university to change the course, they said, no, this is the same being taught in India. We are taking from India. It's not true because they are creating it and they are selling it to India, then India is teaching. So why that those, I call it the balls of steel, have not developed in the Indian academics who are still working as slaves of the West? Many great authors are there, all of them, you keep introducing me to them, but their work never reaches the mainstream educational curriculum, including
Just a
mine.
moment. Sorry,
Including
some
mine, the
confusion about.
work doesn't reach the
Yeah.
mainstream
So
curriculum. Yes.
see, it is 70 years of colonial mindset, slavery, very clearly. So when you have 70 years of intellectual slavery and colonial mindset, it's not easy to come out of it. They have worked hard to be slaves of West and church and all the Marxist theoreticians. So it will take some time. But as you see, so many new authors are coming up, new education policies coming up in India, and this total refusal to go by what West is doing or West is saying. PM Modi has very clearly said that we are going to be on our own. We are not going to be colonial slaves of anybody. But this mindset and the 70 years of work that is there in the academics has created a kind of atmosphere where you believe that you need to seek validation from the West or from the left intellectuals or from Russia or China, whosoever, but not India. And we have such a wonderful knowledge system going back 5,000 years back, and not to go by those methodologies, not to even pick up those books and those knowledge systems to create a refresh our own minds and go back to our own way of research and our own way of fundamental work that we already done for years together. And see, West is trying to copy our own science, our own Vedas, Upanishad, Ayurveda, etc. But we are trying to copy them. So it's a double copy system where where the knowledge went from India by Arabians and Greeks to the world, and now that is being resold to us. And now we have universities coming to India to sell their own ideas. And we know right from Wendy Doniger times, especially in humanities, to what is happening today. I talked last time about the mathematical part where Professor Kamble goes back to the roots of how this entire knowledge system went. And unless we go back to our own style of thinking and our own intellectual depth that we have, we will not be able to actually come up to the standard that we want to come up to. When we say we want to intellectually dominate the world, then we need to go back to our roots, learn anew, take what is good from West, and then create our own systems. But to blindly copy the West is no more kosher in India, and this will change in coming next 3 to 4 years. I'm very sure. And for the present, yes, global universities are coming, and I hope they don't bring their own bias with them, which I actually fear they will. And our people, simply because they want to get certificates from the West and go to the university in the West, the upper crust may go there. But truth is that people who go to West are generally who cannot pass competition exams of Indian universities, whether IIM or IITs, because it's very difficult, whether JEEs or even NET. So our competition is very tough. So people who go to West generally go because they can't get admission here. And not only that, now they want certificates from the West, and that will be available here. But I was talking today, I doubt whether actually the people who go there go only for knowledge. They go for foreign certificate. They go to enjoy the Western life and try to settle there. Whether that hunger will be fulfilled by studying in India on the foreign universities, I have doubts. And even by cost, I don't think they are going to cost very low as compared to even Indian private universities. They are also costing a bomb now. So there is a need to relook at the entire education policy of India and see to it that the way earlier merit used to come up through government colleges, universities, institutions, that doesn't die down with the influx of private universities and the international universities.
The here is the real need for real engineering, reverse engineering, because we need to take the Western method of our education and put our content in that. And generally, I'll see that more independent analysis. I will tell you that many of the IITs, I know many of them very genuine, very, I mean, close to the Vedic Shastra. I know many of them. IIT Mumbai, IIT Kharagpur is filled with those
Right.
kind of students also. And generally, in the IITs and IIMs, you'll see more brains who are more attuned to the Indian culture because they have attained a level
True.
of they've passed that threshold. They know they can conquer anything in
No,
the
in
world.
fact, Aditya ji, there was a study in Kanpur IIT, and this is true of all the IITs across India. 70% of the students who actually enter IIT are from regional language schools and colleges. They don't come from English medium at all. So if you see the number of people who are able to do justice to their intellectual depth, they only come via the what you call a very poorly vernacular medium. So they may be Marathi, they may be Hindi, they may be Tamil, but these are the people who are the real brains, geniuses, who ultimately end up in IIT. 70% of these people are from typical regional colleges. They are not from English medium. This is true also of our own administrative services, IS, etc. Not just I'm talking of IIT, etc., but even in the government services, majority of people who reach to the top are people who are coming from the regional colleges and universities, not from so-called elite English institutions.
See, one advantage of being studying in a local language other than the Western language is that your mind is programmed in a local language and local culture. That is a basic advantage. That's why you'll see the French study in French language,
Right?
Portuguese study in Portuguese language, Chinese study in Chinese language, and Japanese study in Japanese language. In Japan universities, you have to learn Japanese. You have to
In
learn that.
India also now there is an option for carrying on the studies, not only school, even in colleges, even up to postgraduate level, in your own mother tongue, all the recognized 28 national languages, and also any language that you prefer, not necessarily English. So there's a big change. You'll find the intellectual quality of our academia change a lot in coming years.
Language, food, and the process of worship define the culture. These three things are the main things define the culture. And all these three things are never studied. Like, for example, American government gives scholarships in South America to learn English. I have not seen an Indian embassy offering courses in Hindi in South America or in USA or in other parts of the world. Why is that?
They don't even talk to Indians in Hindi, sir, when you go to consulates or their embassies. Slowly things are changing. But earlier, many years back, I talked to Fijians, India of Indian origin. They said when we go to Indian embassy, we know Hindi because Hindi is their, I think, second language in Fiji, and the majority of them speak Hindi. The local embassy refused to talk to them in Hindi. So from there now, when all the ministers, the prime ministers speak in Hindi, slowly this mindset will change because they're trained in English. They don't even know how to speak well in Hindi, but they're trained in English. They think in English. That is the problem. While on the other hand, people like us, they think in Hindi, then translate it to English, or listen in English, then imbibe it in Hindi or my mother tongue. Now that change will take much more force now, but definitely there is a situation so far, and now you see there are more maybe more number of Sanskrit learners in West than in India, for example. But India also Sanskrit is slowly picking up. The idea to call Sanskrit a classic language, a dead language, which can be respected but not studied, to where you say Sanskrit is a living language, it has much more knowledge and much more scientific way of thinking and also logic is now established. So this will also revive. That revival has taken time. Nearly 20, 30 years of last 20, 30 years of many people has gone into create this environment. And now we see the change environment is changing. So we had 200 years of colonialism. I am not talking of Mughal period because they killed people, they changed religions of people, but they could not force intellectual thinking on the map onto Indian minds. But British very cleverly saw to it that we also turn British in our taste, in our thinking. So that success 200 years of British plus 70 years of Indian education system will take time to unravel, but definitely is unraveling.
No, things are moving in the right direction, and we feel proud as as a overseas citizens of India. We are not Indian citizens, but we feel proud of India since 2014. In fact, now we openly say I've been saying it from very beginning. I always used to say I'm a gold standard Indian. So I used to make fun of, like when they used to ask me which nationality. Because there is a disease in the American society also. They ask about nationality of anyone who looks not white. They ask, say, "Oh, are you an American?"
I
I said, "Of
remember
course."
an amusing incident. I had gone to USA in first in 1983, I think, or 1983, I think, for my father-in-law's heart operation. And when I was talking to them in English, then they would look at me surprised. They said, "Oh, you speak good English," as if Indians come from some jungle or some non-civil society. So the image of India was that Indians can't speak well, they don't know English, and they are backward people. From there to this journey has been very interesting.
Ratanji, I was only 7 years old that time, and my father had died in 82. So it was a very early period actually. So I have one answer to these Americans also generally, that you are illegals because you came as settlers. You displaced the local population. I am legal because you
True,
allowed me, and with the proper
true,
documentation. I
true,
earned my citizenship,
true.
and but
They
they
have
did not.
served the lands. They have served their lands. They killed their culture. They killed their people, and
And
now they came to the owners.
most of the European settler Americans, they are generally just 2 to 8 generations old, not more than that. Maximum eight.
True,
8 is like
true.
I'm touching the limit over there.
But see, it is still they are still they started acknowledging at least that
At least,
what was done was not right.
for
Acknowledging
all the
it, they are
things.
trying to do some corrections, I believe. But in India, our own enslaved mindset of intellectuals, they still believe that we worship the whites and worship the British for all they gave us. What did they give us? They looted us, they exploited us, they killed our science, they killed our humanities, they killed our art and culture. They tried to convert people, they killed millions of people, and they still want us to respect and don our hats to the Western world,
For the
or
viewers,
especially to the British.
I'll tell you, Ratan Sharda ji has been equal partner at Sattology. He is the one who has brought so many guests in our show. I can't even count. And he was
Thanks.
one of the first one to come also. One of the first. He and Sanjay Dikshit ji from Jaipur. They were the first ones to come also. So Ratan ji, one question has come from the audience is, will India treat America badly when it exceeds Americans?
No, we are not China, the communist China. Earlier, China is different. And by nature, India is very different. By nature, India treats everybody equals. It respects every thought, every person, every citizen of this world. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is not just shloka; it's part of our mindset, part of our thinking. Even when we say that all rivers lead to one particular ultimate truth, and they all be respected, all roads lead to the same ultimate truth, and we respect all those. So this thought doesn't is not a propaganda thought; it's a thought that is imbibed in us for thousands of years. We didn't colonize people. We had trade all over the world, even prehistoric times. You have people of Indian origin, genes in Australia. You have similarly gods and goddesses, their murtis found across the world, which are 3,000 year old, 4,000 year old. We had trade relations with Rome, with Greek, at least 2,000 years back. And we didn't loot anybody. We didn't colonize them. Our Cholas went all the way to Southeast Asia, established their empire, didn't force their religion on the people. They established their kingdom. People loved their religion. They came to Hinduism, and then Buddha came. They went to Buddhism. There was no force. So this approach of not exploiting people, as I said long back, that India is the only country wherever they had gone, the people there loved them. Otherwise, colonials or colonialists are hated because India didn't believe like colonialists. So they have worked there. They assimilated themselves with whichever country they have gone, whether it's African countries or Western West Indies, etc., where they went even as a what you call as forced labor. But they assimilated themselves in the country, rose from that same space, and became part of the political system. Rose on to become prime minister, president, etc. So this dominating people by force is not India's nature. So you never expect whether India goes equal to America or becomes stronger than America, which is as we call Kal Chakra, cycle of time. That is civilization comes on the peak, then goes down, another civilization comes up. We were the top of the world. Then due to various reasons, including our own weaknesses, we lost out. We have rising again. And but our rise is not threat to anybody. That is proven by our behavior with the people in the world. We didn't stop our medicines to go to the world during COVID. We didn't store them. We didn't black market them. We went out of health, though we were suffering a lot. So this approach to the world, good of the world, is imbibed in us. It is not something that we talk. We behave that way. Peacekeeping force, India is the largest contributor to the peacekeeping forces for years together. And that is a proof that India again still is not part of Security Council, but it has to contribute to the best of its ability more than anybody in the world for the world peace.
Generally, I've seen Americans don't value these things. They think India is inferior. They have to do all these things to make them happy. This is a general viewpoint. Okay. But if you look at Mahabharata and Ramayana, then Mahabharata Ramayana very clearly says that the Indian kings went out all over the world to establish Sanatan Dharma. And that's why you see all the temples. Most of the temples and the Hindu artifacts being discovered are generally from Ramayana period or Mahabharata period, which is Treta Yuga and Dwapar Yuga, where they went all out. And also there is a recorded history in Ramayana and Mahabharata that all the geography of the world is very well documented in my books through Ramayana and Mahabharata. So that is true also. Cholas went out and built the whole temple of in Angkor Wat, and that is a biggest example of floating temple, and I'm very happy that the Indian government is
In
maintaining
fact,
it.
even Vietnam has got Indian origins long
Yes,
back.
yes. In fact, there is a
In fact,
parvat called Mahendra Parvat in Vietnam.
yeah, and in fact, when Cambodia, when the king was childless, the priest from there went to Vietnam. They said, "You also come from the same lineage of Cholas. So can you spare us one of your family members so we continue our dynasty?" And so one of the Chola kings, prince, came to Cambodia, and that line continued. So this is the beauty. And we don't even know that Vietnam has such strong relations with the cultural relation with India. It's our weakness as India. We don't know our strength because of typical secular approach, because of disowning our own past. We talked of last 70 years. We don't even know our strength where we actually had wonderful relations and we could have created a huge block of entire Southeast Asia based on strong cultural roots. But Nehru said that's not good enough. They said the poor countries, let us concentrate on West, look at West. And I had just one amusing incident which I have recently read. Professor Makhan Lal was the YouTube said that when French came to India somewhere around 50-51, went all over India and they were going gaga over India. When they met Nehru, they talked glowingly about spiritualism, about temples, about its culture. And Nehru was very kind of upset. He said, "You are praising the very things I'm trying to destroy." So this is the dilemma of India. This is the tragedy of India that we lost nearly 7 decades. What could have started in 47 started in 2014.
One of the things is before King and Ming dynasty, which is very celebrated in China, Mahabharata has at least three references which I myself read and quoted in my books, where China is a small China on the coastal side used to pay taxes to Hastinapur. Very clearly mentioned. They came to the Rajsuya Yagya of Yudhishthir Maharaj to bring taxes and they were staying outside. So if China claims India, then India has a full right to claim China historically. That they were paying taxes to Hastinapur. Unfortunately, India has not maintained Hastinapur, which is a very stupid thing to do, and also not a very, it's like undermines their own culture. Last question, which has come from the audience is, will Indian government has always supported, like Sushma Swaraj always invited Native Americans to India, and Sattology is doing a lot of work on with Native Americans. My book Gold, Glory, and God was a hit with the students because it produced a different narrative. Will Indian government support Native Americans to get their rights in USA? Because still today, the reservations, most of the policies of the American government, like setting up post boxes, they can't vote properly, and also all these rules are there, which is primarily designed to, and it from me it looks like not allow them to vote. But will they ever come to rescue of Native Americans?
So far, luckily for America, India has not used its own yardstick to bash America. The way US has used various agencies to bash India for existing or non-existing. pains of the people, on human rights, on religious freedom, etc. The day India wants to pay back in the same coin, then US will find it very difficult to keep on posturing as the human rights champion of various communities, including the native Indians or blacks. And India, I don't know when it will happen, but as the world changes, these forces of true liberalism will also put its weight on US and think that that time that help will be available. Whether government officially does it, whether government Indian government gets into that mode, I do not know. It may take some more time. But if Indian government even starts having some agencies which will create reports about human rights and religious freedom and cultural freedom of people of Americas and other Western countries, you'll see a huge change. And this unnecessary bashing of the Eastern world, of the Hindu civilization and Buddhist civilization, will naturally stop, and that's when they will start getting justice, people of their own country, own nations. Because if Latin Americans have been treated very badly by the North America, even they need justice. They have been manipulated, they have been exploited, their democracies have been played along with, their regimes have been played along with. So when this starts coming out, you'll see that America will also have to mend its way. There is no other way for them.
Of all the South American countries, the best country which has maintained is Peru and Mexico. Mexico has done a phenomenal job. They have recognized the languages of the natives also. And the worst countries to do that is Argentina. They have completely destroyed. They think they are Spanish. They are not Spanish. It's an occupied land, and plus a Nazi land. Even
See,
though
their
they had
memories have been totally destroyed. Their memories have been whitewashed by the
no,
church
they
which went along with the imperialists. So they have to go back along, dig a lot in their history to realize what they are.
bad karma never wipes out. They know it very well. I know they very well because I know their professors. They know very well. And but the thing is, at least Americans have documented what happened to Native Americans. That is documented. Plus, but only thing is not being taught to the American children. They're still being taught the Native Americans were savages, which is very bad. But
True.
in Mexico, that correction has been made, and 263 national languages are there in Mexico now.
Okay.
63 are official. Spanish is not the only language for Mexicans. Sad news. Spanish is one of the languages now. So that is a good thing they have done. So they are all following what India has done. India also has to do a lot of work on the tribal side because on the native tribal cultures to be maintained, there is a university in India which is they have to do some more work, and but at the same time,
The indigenous faith movement in Northeast India, the indigenous faith which were actually steamrolled by the church of various kinds, is slowly asserting itself. Not only that, there is a news today, there was a debate today in the afternoon in our own channel, where the local tribals have risen against the conversion mafia. They are attacking those churches. They are attacking their clerics for not for forcing people to convert and then asking them to detach themselves from the families who don't convert. So that anger is again returning to them. It's local people. Even Naxals who are generally supportive of church, because no cleric was ever hurt even in violence when many people were killed. They are also opposed it now. They are also opposing church and the conversion mafia. So tribals are also rising. Local cultures are rising, and this, of course, is a long march. But as we see the change, this change will, once it happens in India, this will happen in other countries also. I'm very sure. Though their memories have been dimmed, their culture has been destroyed, their records have been destroyed, while we were able to protect and secure some of our memories and our knowledge systems. Now, those evidences are not available in these other countries, but at least their living memory is there, just like folk memory we had about history, etc. So as they see other countries rising, even these countries will rise, and they will actually, this decay of colonial thoughts process itself is around the corner. It will happen all over the world.
the native history is so close to the native history is so close uh, to the Hindu culture that it is not even funny. Like the in terms
You
of
know about
their
ICCS. You know about ICCS, in Indian Center for Cultural Studies. I was host of the first conference that took place in India, and there were scholars from 34 countries, and they said we have much more faith in Hindu civilization, Hindu dharma, that they will protect us like a large ship protects the small flotilla of small boats. While we don't have any faith in Abrahamic religions because they will sink us, they will destroy us. So we trust Hindus and we think this is the only religion and the dharma and the society which will nurture us and see our revival. So that is the trust that people have. This was 2003, and movement is still going strong. People were from all over the world. They were from America, Canada, North, South of America, and Australia. Every part of the planet where there was some indigenous culture surviving, and that is the goodwill that Hindus have earned over millennia. And they believe in Hindus. They have full trust. You talked about how you'll behave with America. Is one example where they themselves say that we want to come to India every 3 years to renew our faith, to feel confident of our own culture and heritage, and go back to our own countries. That is the strength of India.
In one of the Ojibwa tribes, one of the largest tribes of the First Nations, there were 5 nations combined. People do not know there are 573 nations in United States, which are called Native American nations. Most of the
Yeah.
European settler population is only in the large urban centers, but generally there are five. America is made up of 573 tribal nations, out of which the biggest tribe is Ojibwa tribe in the Northeast America, which covers most of Canada, northeastern Canada, east coast of Canada, and most of the east coast of United States, where more than the 80% of population lives there of US. So that is where the nations were. Now they've been pushed over to Dakota, South Dakota. And one of the names in one of the tribes is Apsara Loka. And
Okay.
and which is exactly Apsara Loka. Exact word is there. Some people call it Apsaloka, Apsara Loka. So it was considered a land of Apsaras at one point of time in the history. And there are some references to that in Rig Veda and other Vedas also, and which is very prominently mentioned. And I won't say when, because the story of Parshuram and the Krishna explaining to Yudhishthir that how the movement happened due to Parshuram. So some Kshatriyas
Mhm.
left, and that time I'm sure Bering Strait was completely land mass, so they get cornered. So most of the
Mhm.
Alaskan tribes have similar traditions, but now somehow it's being lost, and one day I hope it gets revived. So thank you so much,
If you
Ratan.
listen to their if you listen to their shlokas when they do worship of the fire, if you don't listen to the words, you will feel that you are doing some Sanskrit shlokas. Even their notes, their way of speaking is so close to the Sanskrit shlokas.
Now
This slow Moses types.
I've attended their lodges. I know how they
So
work.
you will understand. Yeah, you will understand that. Yeah.
I've attended their lodges, and I've attended their ceremonies. And unfortunately, the in what you call Illuminati groups have absorbed those chants, and nowadays they do their lodges on based on that, which is not their tradition. They're trying to. So thank you
Again,
so much.
digestion.
Yeah, it's like indigestion. It's going to result in bad digestion, by the way. So, so thank you so much, Ratanji, for coming on the show.
Thank you, Aditya. Always
For
a
all,
pleasure to converse with you.
thank you so much, and for all the viewers
Thank
who are
you.
watching, and do like, share, and subscribe, and let us know your feedback. Namaste.
Namaste.